Hi there, welcome back to the Complicated Kids podcast. I'm your host, Gabriele Nicolet. I am a toddler whisperer, a speech therapist, and a parent coach. And today I have Lisa Chan with me. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for having me here. A brief introduction of who I am and my background. My background is in pediatric occupational therapy. I've been doing this for over a decade, working with many families who have children who are on the spectrum, who have ADHD, sensory processing challenges, intellectual disabilities, and through my career, I got a lot of experience working in different settings. I worked in the school board setting, I worked in clinical, I've worked in home. And so all of these experiences have really given me such a unique perspective in on what's going on with children, especially with disabilities. And my heart is really focused on the parent journey as well. I really have seen so much of what parents go through, the ups, the downs, the uncertainties, and that's what shifted me into my current role as a parent coach. So I'm an OT turned parent coach, very similar path as Gabrielle,
Yeah.
SLP2 parent coach. And so what my main objective here is really to give parents the insights that you need to help you understand what is really going on with your child and help you feel like you have more control of what is going on in supporting your child and not feeling like it's, you have to send your child somewhere in order for that change to happen. The change can happen within your own home.
I love this because before we hit record, I said, what do people need to know that they don't know? And you said they have more control than they think. And I said, okay, tell me more about what you mean. And you very eloquently, and I'll paraphrase and we can talk about it a little bit more, but when parents find out that their kids have a disability or are struggling, they're told, if they're lucky, they're told, take your kid to a therapist of some kind. Take them to a professional who knows. And that is good advice. And if you get that advice from your pediatrician or a family member, take it and go see that person. And there is kind of this narrative of like, and that person will fix your child.
Yes.
And nothing could be further from the truth. So pick it up from there.
Yes. I mean, we were on that side, right? We were there as an OT frontline working with your child, but the reality is, and I really wish therapists would be more and more transparent. I think deep down we do all know this. It's just that we're not really sure how to say this to families, but it's that what your child is learning in therapy needs to be translated at home. Your child needs to know how to implement those skills that they are learning through the therapist in your home, and you have to facilitate that because kids, they do not have the capability to learn something in a setting over here and bring that into a different situation over here, know how to apply it, right? It takes a lot of cognitive processing, a lot of memory, especially our kids who are so young. It's not developmentally appropriate either for them to just know how to implement something they learn without adult intervention. And so you are the adults in your home, you're their parent, that you actually have to know exactly what to do. So, for instance, if your child is, let's say, struggling with emotional regulation. So I got that a lot as an OT. Kids would come to me, parent would ask me, can you work on my kids' emotions? They're having lots of tantrums, behaviors at home, at school, and I don't know what to do. And so we would working on it, identifying feelings, thinking about, what are the different physical sensations you're feeling? Let's talk about that. And, these kids would tell me like, oh yeah, this is what I'm feeling. This is what it is. And it would all sound great, right? Because they know it logically.
Yeah.
But then they go home and mom still tells me, well, my kid's still having all these tantrums, right? I'm asking them to put away their iPad to do their homework, and it's still blowing up in my face. What's going on? I thought they're working on this. But the truth is, they're not applying what we just talked about in therapy in real life. It's now really, what is your role in this? What do you need to be doing to help them in those moments? Because those are the real life moments that unfortunately as therapists we cannot see.
Yeah.
And we can't address it. It's really you are the one to have to know what to do in those moments. And if you're not equipped, then of course, like you're going to feel stressed, you're going to panic, you're going to feel frustrated after you've told them 20,000 times to not do something and to do this. And then you're going to feel like a broken record, and then you're going to start yelling and screaming because you're getting more and more frustrated, right? And that's the cycle that I'm seeing with a lot of families. And that's why it's so important for you to know that you need to understand why your child's being that way, what is triggering them, how to approach it differently. And that's what parent coaching is there for.
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate for the fact that we all need support. Like, think about it. When you go to the gym, you need a personal trainer to tell you what to do, right? Like, we're not just like suddenly we know exactly what we're supposed to do to help, lose weight or to tone up. Same goes with parenting. Like, none of us were given a manual. And when you have a child who has challenges, that adds an extra layer that nobody told you how to handle that. And so reaching out to a coach can be such a valuable tool that's going to give you insight that you didn't know about.
Well, and it's really interesting because I think, obviously the profession of parent coach in particular is on the rise right now. And I think because people are recognizing like, oh, actually parenting is number one, hard. Number two, not as natural as we think it is. There are parts of it for sure that are, there are some things that are natural. Okay, yes. But there are some strategic, some tactical kinds of things that particularly parents of, sometimes we call them orchid kids over here, sensitive kids, kids with disabilities, need to know that, number one, the parenting literature, the general parenting literature doesn't really do a particularly good job of, because they don't describe a nervous system that's under attack. So, which is where I feel like OTs really shine, is in understanding that piece of it, kind of this bottom-up processing. But also, we were not meant to raise children with either no other people or one other person. We were meant to do that as a group activity, and we don't have that in our modern society. Everybody's in their homes. Usually it's, mom and another parent, dad and another parent, hunkered down trying to figure this thing out. And it can be very, very challenging and very stressful for everybody. And so do you want to talk a little bit about like nervous systems and that lens of like bottom-up processing and this notion that, kids who know skills in the therapy room, but who cannot use them in the moment, like what's going on there?
Well, in the moment where your child's caught up in the emotion. And so what's going on from a neurological level, their brain is functioning from the brain back here, which is called the amygdala, right? It's the reactive brain. And so when something is making them feel upset, their brother just knocked down their tower, or you told them to turn off the show that they were watching, they feel that frustration, that disappointment, and it's shutting off all logical thinking in that prefrontal cortex. So they can't rationalize with you, and they are reacting from that amygdala part of the brain. And that's why you're seeing that big tantrum, that pushback, the aggressive behaviors. And if we're coming at it trying to reason with them, we're trying to say, well, you've been on the TV for an hour, and you got your 50 million reasons that all make logical sense. It's not computing because they are not functioning from that logic brain in that moment. So that is a really important thing for parents to understand, is that we all have two brains, but like especially your child that has these challenges, they function from that brain much more often because neurologically They get triggered more easily. Maybe they have sensory issues and they just get more overwhelmed, that it signals to their front prefrontal cortex to shut down and only function from that reactive brain. And so when we know that, then we know how to approach this differently. Because if we keep trying to rationalize our way out of it, you are actually triggering them even more and keeping that reactive brain on.
And you're
it's like,
triggering yourself.
and you're triggering yourself. You're triggering your own reactive brain to activate too. Like now you're both just in reactive mode and you guys are gonna get nowhere. And this is what I see so much, is that parents and their child, they get into that state of reactiveness. They get stuck there, and then it's just battle, battle, battle. And then what does that do if it's repeated over and over and over again? It becomes a habit. And then when that becomes a habit, you start to internalize negative feelings. So I hear, parents who are being open and honest about it, that they start to feel like feelings of annoyance and resentment towards their kids. And then their kids are also feeling the same way too. And if this is habitual, now imagine months go by, years go by, and this is the interaction you have. Unfortunately, that's where family relationships starts to break down, because if every interaction is just a fight, like who wants to be there? Who wants to engage?
Yeah.
You mentally shut down. And that's why we see a lot of kids, especially autistic and ADHD kids who've had a lot of these types of experiences, they start to mentally just shut down. Like they just don't want to engage. They act really defiant. They just close you off. Defense walls are always up. And so now it's really working backwards. How do we get back to a place of connection with our kids?
Yeah.
How do we help them start to feel like we're not here to attack you? We're here to work together, cooperate together to find a middle ground between the two of us. And that can be really hard if it's been years and years of habit of conflict.
So how do we do that? How do we get back to connection when there's been conflict?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it really depends on like how far kind of like each individual family that dynamic is. I mean, the first place to really start is to find that connecting point with your child. If you're at a place where even just trying to like sit down and talk to them, they're already shutting you down, like they don't even want to be there with you. It stumps a lot of parents. Like I'm trying to be open, trying to have a conversation, but they just don't even want to interact with me. I always say, try to just be there. Like find whatever that they're interested in. If it's like they love their video games and they just want to play, and every time you walk in the door, they're just like, they shove you away, and try to go in there without any intention. Just try to say like, is it okay if I just watch? I'm just curious to know what you're playing.
Yeah.
Heard all about Roblox, heard all about Minecraft, those really popular games, and just like sit there, watch your kid play, show curiosity, and that helps them to feel safe within your presence. Something that they're doing that's interesting to them, and you're not trying to get them to stop, you're not trying to say anything's wrong with it. That can help to build that trust and connection. If you have a younger child, it could just be as simple as just like playing on the floor with them, doing a lot of floor time, and letting them lead in the game. If you're gonna play a board game with them, and like they really just want to play it a certain way, like you don't always have to follow the rules. Like
I know.
some of us are type A, like we just want to like, no, like you have to move it the one step. It's like, you know what, sometimes just let it go, it's okay.
My favorite game to play with kids is Connect Four, not because I play Connect Four, but I call it fill up the grid. So we just take turns putting in, and sometimes we don't even take turns. Sometimes I let kiddo just have 5 turns in a row because they want to put it in a certain place. And there is nothing wrong with that. I think we get in our heads about like, yeah, but they won't learn to be good sports, or they won't learn to lose, or they won't learn whatever. They're not ready to learn those lessons now anyway. Like, let's not put the cart before the horse here. Let's just get a nice, easy, fun interaction going that feels good. And I think we discount that. Like, I think we don't place value on a good feeling with our kids. We think we have to
Yes.
be teaching them all the time. We do not.
And biologically, what we're doing is we're helping to send those fun, good hormones, that oxytocin, right? That's the bonding hormone that, a lot of our kids, when we kind of have gotten to that stage, like they're not feeling that anymore, that we actually need to do fun activities that help to boost that hormone and help that flow within their body so they actually know what feeling good actually feels like.
Yeah. And we forget, I think, and I think probably because nobody taught us, that fun is how, well, first of all, play, but play that's fun. In other words, if I'm playing a game, yes, that's play. But if I'm there, the adult, imposing a bunch of rules that don't make sense to this child and making them do a certain thing, that's actually not play and that's not fun. So play that is engaging, play that is fun, that is enjoyable, is creating the neurological conditions for learning, for
Mhm.
long-term memory, for connection, for all of the, for resilience, for all these things that we say we want. And yet we often are going about it in kind of the exact wrong way, where we're creating dissonance and conflict rather than harmony. And when we prioritize harmony, then we get more harmony.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just like for us to recognize we need to just tap into that inner child.
Hmm.
Like along the way, as we've become adults, we're just so systematic about everything. We have a lot of responsibilities nowadays. I think nowadays parents just have so much pressure juggling home life, like you said, without that village around us. We have work commitments. We got to take our kids to extracurricular. We got to whatever. There's just like so much stress that we have become very uptight and we don't know how to just be and just play and just enjoy the time we have with our kids. And we impose that on our kids and they feel it. And that's where a lot of that resistance is happening. So it's sometimes taking that inner look and going, am I being a little bit too stiff about this? Do I just need to loosen up and actually just play and just be okay with whatever, however things end up being?
Yeah. It's really interesting. Kids are funny because they don't have the life experience to filter, like they don't have a behavioral filter because they don't have this impression, a lot of them, particularly young kids, of like how this is supposed to be going. And so that can be really interesting and also very triggering, I think, for parents who are like, oh, no, 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 no. This is supposed to be going a very different way, but it's not going that way. And I think sometimes we get caught up, again, to your point about like the job and the activities and the appearances in the house and the this and the that and the way things are supposed to be. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if this is a thing in Canada, but like birthday parties are ridiculous. Like the whole class is invited. Everybody has to go. Like we have to go. Why? Why do we have to go? A birthday party is supposed to be a fun celebration. If it's not going to be a fun celebration, please don't go. That's not fun. That's not fun for your kid, and that's not fun for you. Like, why are we doing that?
Exactly. We've made everyday things become more stressful,
Mm,
right? Like these things should be fun. And if your child is not going to have fun at it, if they're going to be overwhelmed and overstimulated because it's at like a playland place and there's like just tons of stuff and kids everywhere screaming, running, and this isn't going to be a good fit for your kid, like it's okay to say no. It's okay to stay home or find an alternative, right? Like we don't have to do all the things just because you think that it's the thing that we're all supposed to do.
yeah,
We have to realize like our kids, they all have different needs and different wants, and we got to learn to be okay with that.
yeah, yeah. It's complicated for sure.
Very much.
Lisa, if people want to learn more about you and what you do, where should they go?
So you can first of all find me on my website. It's thelisachan.com. And on my website, I have a brand new course that I actually just launched. So this is all about emotional regulation, and it's geared for parents who are struggling with your child's tantruming, meltdown, sensory meltdowns. And you really just don't know what to do about it. You don't know how to spot the triggers. You don't know how to handle them. I've really outlined it in a way, I just really reflected on my career as an OT and helped to conceptualize from all that I've observed working with so many families, what were the five main things? Well, I identified five main things at the end of the day that is causing your child to have emotional dysregulation. When there's problems in any of these five, then that's the place to start. That's where you need to really start shifting the way you approach things, shifting the way you see and perceive your child. And I outline it very clearly for people. And that course, it's all on my website. So if you're really looking for that change, you really want to start supporting your child through their dysregulation, that is the course that is just going to paint that whole picture more clearly for you. I'm also offering parent coaching. So in regards to emotional regulation, if that's something that you're facing, different challenging behaviors, I provide parents really with that emotional support too, because I know how difficult it can be dealing with all of these challenges day in, day out, how much it impacts not just your child, but yourself and also your family and the dynamics within your family. And that's what I specialize in, giving you that tailored guidance on what you can do to start making change in your home and helping you to feel less stressed in the process. So those are the two things that I do offer. I also have different social media platforms that I'm on pretty much every day. On Instagram, I'm there posting different pieces of content that I think is very helpful for families who are raising kids with special needs and who are looking for different strategies and tools. I'm also on YouTube where I share different resources twice a week. I'm on Facebook and also Threads. So my handle for all of those is at Lisa Parent Coach.
Perfect. All right. And we will link to all of that in the show notes. Lisa Chan, it was a delight to talk to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.